Hello and welcome to the Business of Meeting podcast. I'm your host, Eric Rosenberg. Over the years, I've had the privilege of helping businesses in the meetings and event industry grow and succeed. And I'm excited to share that experience with you. If you feel alone and overwhelmed, and if you're looking to take your business to the next level, improve your strategy and sales, and connect with like minded professionals, you are in the right place. I invite you to visit eventbusinessformula.com and join our community of event business owners dedicated to exponential growth. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Hello, and welcome to a new episode of the Business of Meeting podcast. And for this first podcast of the year, I have the amazing pleasure to speak with an amazing leader in our industry. We're going to talk about conscious leadership. We're going to talk about best place to work. We're going to talk about wellness. And we're going to do that with the amazing person who is currently serving as the Executive Director of Industry Relation and Intermediary Group Sales. But she's also a certified master practitioner of energetic medicine. And she's an enthusiastic Peloton rider. And I can assure you, we never met because of Peloton, because that would never be the case with me. She's phenomenal. She's bringing all this expertise in our industry for about 30 years, bringing the leadership, bringing an amazing brand, and bringing all the aspect of wellness into everything we do. I am so happy to speak with the one and only Kim Napolitano. Kim, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today.
Eric, it's a real pleasure. Thank you very much for inviting me to your podcast.
I mean, as soon as we start speaking for a totally unrelated topic, I told you about the program I have for business owners in our industry. And one of the session is about time management, delegation, and mental health. And you said, why do you call it mental health and not wellness? And I went like, that's an interesting question. And what you told me afterwards, I said, Kim, please take the time to come on my podcast and speak about it. But that's a little teaser because that's the last topic we're going to talk about. First and foremost, can you please share what is your journey?
Yes. So my journey as it relates to my endeavors with conscious leadership, it's been going on for quite some time. It started pre-COVID when, Eric, I felt like there was something bigger destined for me. And I just was trying to figure out what it was. And I ended up getting a life coach and an executive coach. And so she said, what is it that you're trying to achieve, Kim? And I said, I just think that there's something bigger out there and I can't put my finger on it. Then fast forward, COVID hits in 2020. And it was in that moment in time that I realized as hotels were shutting down, as travel was stopping around the world, then hotels are shutting down. And in the meantime, all these dear friends and colleagues and coworkers who I've known for decades are losing jobs or being furloughed. And then the impact that made with the meetings and events segment, I had to show up differently for my team. And through that, it evolved into becoming a certified master practitioner of energetic medicine, because I recognized in that moment that we were far more connected than we ever thought. And that was training that helped me to understand from an energetic standpoint, the impact that we have as individual human beings, which is we're 99.98% energy and 0.02% matter. So the body form that we sit in is just 0.02%. So as people around the world are feeling away, as my team is feeling away, I too was receiving that. And I said, I can't be that leader who was pre-COVID, hey, how are you doing in your numbers? What's happening? It was like I was only talking to the employee in front of me. I wasn't talking to the human being who was really filling the employee ID. So that's what got me on this journey with conscious leadership. It's going from that egocentric approach in leadership of, the I, to a more we-centric approach. Mm-hmm. And through the discovery and the research, and now finishing up my 12-month training to become an executive coach myself through the ontological approach of coaching, which is your beingness. Again, how do I get my team members to show up as their authentic self? Because that's where the beauty is residing. Through all of this work, I've realized that conscious leadership is not a new thing. It's been out for decades. And it's now trending in a way because organizations are seeing that it's a fundamental shift in
Hmm.
how organizations can drive sustainable success by prioritizing business results and not or, but and human well-being. There's all this research, Eric, that supports this, but it's been a labor of love for me. I've really enjoyed it. And it's been a lot of fun to bring these tools and resources within my organization to help the team grow and prosper and flourish for all the right reasons.
That's awesome. I love the fact that you say you have to prioritize business results, because if there's no business results, there's no business. And that is valid for any organization, any size organization, but also the human aspect of it. And by the way, I realized as well in the intro, I never mentioned the fact that you're working for an amazing brand, which is Hilton. And also, disclaimer, this podcast, people know me, that there is no sponsorship whatsoever. It's not because you're with Hilton, it's because you are Kim and what you do. And you happen to work in an amazing company. And so, that being said, talking about the conscious leadership, we're also talking about, taking your responsibilities, being a servant leader. And that is something that I've heard that I try to practice myself. I always thought it's easier to practice it and to do it in a smaller organization. And your example is actually proving me wrong. You can do it. What is the factor that you are attributing to the fact that you can do that? You can talk about conscious leadership. You can really implement conscious leadership while in the meantime looking at the results. What is the right environment to be able to implement that in an organization?
I think it's by having exceptional senior leadership. Our leadership, starting with our CEO, going to his direct reports and on down, they are very aware that in order for Hilton's legacy to continue, in order for us as individual team members to drive and live the vision Conrad had for us, which is to fill the earth with the light and warmth of hospitality, that
Mm,
what got us here, it's not going to get us to the next level. As Marshall Goldsmith said,
yep.
he's the because he's considered the father of coaching, of
Yep.
executive coaching. But he shares that what got you here won't get you there. And when you start looking at data over decades that show organizations that are people first driven, they're 3 times likely to meet or exceed their financial targets.
Mm,
They are 10 times more likely to achieve elevated levels of customer satisfaction. And Eric, they are 11 times more likely to have high employee retention. It's absolutely huge. So that retention is huge because you want to keep the right employees. You want to keep those employees who love what they do, they enjoy where they're at, and they enjoy working towards the vision, mission, and values. And that's
mhm.
something that I think our company has been very open to is although we may be a company that's over 100 years old, we are very entrepreneurial in our style and our approach to get again really live the vision, mission, and values.
I love everything you're saying. I was trying to find the right expression in English, because in French you say "je bois du petit lait." In other words, I'm so happy and so excited and so aligned with everything you're just saying, because again, it just aligned with everything I try to do for business owners in our industry. When you speak about vision, mission, values, this is the foundation of culture. And to your point, I think the data, that's what you're saying, is the culture that you have when you do people first, when you really walk the talk and not having just a nice vision of credo in your reception, because marketing wise it's good to have that, but when you actually live it, that's where you're getting the results. So you are talking about 3 things, 3 exercise that leaders can do. And I would love to have you mentioned to me the clearing exercise, the iconic leader exercise, and the me, they need me to be exercise. So let's talk first about the clearing exercise.
Yeah. Well, if I can just jump in real fast, because when you talk about
Sure.
culture, Peter Drucker, who is considered the father of modern management, he himself has said, and it's something that our CEO repeats, culture eats strategy every day for breakfast. And I
Yep.
had an opportunity to speak with my CEO, and I said, where do you begin? Day one, CEO of this incredible company. Like, what is it? He goes, Kim, it's the culture. Culture, culture, culture. So everything we do from a strategic standpoint has got to align with our vision, mission, and values. That literally, those are the due north. And then from there, if it doesn't align, we're going to exit stage right, exit stage left, whichever direction we need to go to then make sure that we work on what is going to align with the vision, mission, and values. So that leads into some of these fun exercises that I've learned along my journey. And the first one is the clearing exercise. And Eric, I'm curious, when you wake up in the morning, is your first thought, it's going to be a great day. I'm an amazing human being. I'm going to look incredible when I get out and go on stage, or I'm going to nail that sales pitch, or I'm going to, really hit the mark on that delivery of the presentation I'm giving? Or do you think a vast majority of people wake up and say, oh, it's Monday and I didn't do the work over the weekend and I woulda, coulda, shoulda. And why didn't I work later on Tuesday the previous week to really prep properly for this conversation? And how, we kind of come from this lens of this fear. We're operating from a central lens of fear. It's a natural human being thing. I call her Lily Lizard. For those, for the men and listening to this podcast, you can call him Larry Lizard, like whatever you want to identify, but he or she is squawking constantly in the back of your brain. And so the clearing exercise allows you as an individual, and we say conscious leadership and leaders, and this is what leaders should do. To me, if you are breathing, you're a leader because you are a friend, potentially a spouse, an aunt, an uncle, a cousin, a nephew, a niece, a grandparent, a granddaughter, a grandson. Like, you are a citizen of the world.
Right.
And so we can all receive the benefit of when we engage with you as the human being, not your title, but you as a human being. When you show up differently, it supports everyone around you in all the right ways. So the clearing exercise is just this. It allows you to wake up in the morning and you just write all the thoughts and feelings. Just get them all out. Write them out. The good, the bad, the ugly, as I like to say. And then you take a step back and you're like, what do I want to stand for today? What's my stand? And so, Eric, it could be, I know I'm going to be very busy. I know I'm going to be on back-to-back calls. I know this is happening or that's happening, or I've got to prep for something. Today, I am going to stand for the word calm. Or if you know you're getting ready to walk into some very stressful conversations, today, the stand I'm going to be is grace, compassion, empathy, whatever that word needs to be for you. It could be strategic. I'm going to be strategy. That is my word for the day. But it's up to you to pick that word and then write it on a sticky note. I would leave it on your bathroom mirror, on your computer screen, wherever you know you're going to be several times throughout the day, and just look at that word and embody that word for the day.
Wow, I love it. Just so what I'm doing is deciding the day before going to sleep, what are the 3 things I should be doing the next day to be successful. But I don't do necessarily the journaling part in the morning and this conscious intention. And then absolutely love that. To your point earlier on, when I hear people said, how are you doing? And how I feel like a Friday, I'm thinking, oh my God, you should leave your job, do something else if this is how you feel. But the point of what you're saying is that intentionally every day, every morning, think about that and not opening your phone first, not thinking about the dog or the kids or the this and the that. So that means that you're waking up a little earlier.
I took a training course through Brendan Bouchard, and he had talked about waking up an hour before and just do that. It's like when you go on the airplane, right? All of us in the industry, we've been on multiple airplanes. What's the first thing that we hear on the airplane as we're backing away from the gate? Put your oxygen mask on first before you can be of service to others. That waking up, even if it's 10 minutes earlier, that time to yourself is allowing you to give oxygen back to yourself. Because if you're constantly gasping, how can you be of support to those who are in need of help in the moment in time when they need it?
Absolutely. I love it. So that's the clearing exercise. waking up a little early, journaling or your thought, and deciding the mindset in which you're going to operate that day. Great. Now, how about the iconic leader exercise?
Oh, this is going to be a fun one. So, Eric, this one is about identifying a leader who's made profound impact in your life. And I'm going to ask you, if you want to bring that person to your mind, to your mind's eye, what are some of the traits that you admired from that leader?
Courage, being able to analyze the situation, define the right decision, courage to take the right decision, not being afraid of being in the minority or being the only one to think about what should be done, and as well being humble if what you decided was actually the right thing, or apologize if it was not the right thing, but at least you're showing leadership.
Powerful. So, in this exercise, we ask the audience to do just this: identify that leader, that individual who it just resonates with you. And there is also this component that it could be a leader who you learned what not to do. So we all have those teachers as well. But in this case,
Yep.
this is a very positive example that you shared. And so we would say, well, Eric, you spot it, you've got it. So courage. That could be something that we know you have that muscle because you identified in with it. Humility, you have that muscle within you because you've identified it. And we would ask the audience, that's beautiful. What are 3 to 5 actions you can take to continue to grow the muscle of courage, of humility? And you mentioned analytics and the ability to make a decision and stand behind it and to be able to apologize. Like, what additional things could you do to continue to grow that muscle? So that way, when you are under the pressure in that moment in time, it is a natural reaction for you to respond in those ways that you admired from a leader who you truly respected.
Wonderful. I was told learning English that the three main difficult things, three main different words or sentence to say in English is "I love you," "I'm sorry," and "Worcestershire sauce," something like that when you put it in the salad. But anyway, this it's really what you're saying again. It's I love the fact that you identify what matters to you, and the action that it's like a muscle that you're going to train to do that. Where does that fit into other people in your team, their own definition of an iconic leader, and how do you build the ideal team, knowing that obviously an iconic leader example is different from one person to another?
Yeah. Well, and I think this is where reading, please be a voracious reader. I am a huge fan of Audible, or we just got connected with Lit Video, and hearing these great books get condensed to 20 to 40-minute videos that you can listen to. So I know people are like, oh, I don't have time to read, I don't have time to read. Well, there are resources available that are making it very easy to get a lot of information in bite-sized amounts. So you
Yeah.
can do just that. You can continue to grow. There is a great book, I highly recommend it, called The Ideal Team Player. And that's written by Patrick Lencioni. And that is a book
Mm,
that's been truly adopted and has actually become part of our ethos within Hilton Worldwide Sales and how we hire people within our organization. Are you humble, hungry, smart? So are you humble? Do you have the ability to collaborate and align cross-functional teams, different stakeholders, whatever that looks like? Hungry, are you self-motivated? Like, to me, I want my team members to be the CEO of their own domain, which means I'm not micromanaging you. As a director within a Fortune 500 company, I should not be directing you. I'm here walking alongside you on your journey for growth and development. And I'm here to support you when needed, but you need to own your space of excellence at the same time.
mm,
And then smart. Yes, book smart. That's amazing. IQ, beautiful. But where we need smart is also an EQ, the
yep.
wisdom, right? So this is the intellect, this is the wisdom. And so how do we help our team members balance between the two So you're not so in your head, you can't see the emotions of people around you. And you're not so in your heart that you're into your feelings and you're not looking at the analytics of the outcome of the decision that you may be making. So to
Love
answer
it.
your question, that's part of it, is hiring the ideal team player and then allowing them to be in this space. Because there's a very interesting statistic that Society for Human Resource Management, where they talked about 53% of Americans left their jobs because of their relationships with their managers. And
I would have thought it's even more than that.
well, I thought 53% was massive, knowing that it was about the relationship with the manager. I get, I can see pay and I can see this, but more than half of it is because they did not like the person they were working for. And so that's where the beauty of this conscious leadership approach makes a big shift, because it's allowing the person to step forth. And when we talk about best place to work, they have 5 dimensions that they analyze a corporation on. And 3 of the dimensions are directly correlated to their relationship with their leadership.
I'm sure. And we're going to talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
Just want to finish on the third exercise, but it's really fascinating. What I love in everything you are speaking about. There are 2 things for me that struck out. It's first, it is something that anybody can do. And second, you can apply this whether you're working for a Fortune 100 company or if you're a solopreneur or having a small business, which I love. So you spoke about the clearing exercise. You spoke about the iconic leader exercise. I'm curious to know about the they need me to be exercise.
I love this one. I love all of them. They're a lot of fun, but this one in particular, because as I look at my day, I'm then identifying who am I speaking with, because how I show up for my leader is going to be more than likely be different than how I would show up for different team members, because my leader is different. She's an individual human, as are my individual team members who I may be speaking with later in the day. And I'll give you a great example. I had a team member going through a personal situation with a family member, and it was hard for her. My heart broke for what she was going through. And I knew whenever I was on a phone call with her, how I started the conversation with her for her one-on-one was vastly different than how I was starting my conversation with a majority of the rest of the people I was engaging with. And when I knew I was speaking with her, I immediately thought of a few words. And one of them was either love, another one was compassion, another was grace. And typically it was one of those 3 words. And she is an amazing team member, absolutely enjoy her, love her. And she's a great team member. And so she'd come in, she'd have her agenda and, boom, 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 boom. Be like, let's stop. Let's just pause. How are you doing? And Eric, it was in that moment in time when I would embrace the beauty, the power, and the gift of the pause. Because I think we were so intentional, just get it done, get it done, get it done, that we leave the person at the starting line as we're trying to head to the finish line. So I would pause and say, how are you doing? And of course, it would turn into kind of an update, but it was about other things within her, with what she was dealing with. That's great. I want to know how you are doing, though. How are you doing? So what would start off as initially that conversation would, the first time I asked the question, it was, about 30 minutes of our conversation was geared towards that. And I'm not saying I'm asking leaders to be therapists. By no means am I, unless you're passionate and want to get a degree in therapy or psychology, that's up to you, but we are not here to be therapists. What I'm asking you to do is allow your team member an opportunity to open up the valve to vent a little. And then as a conscious leader, what resources do I have available? Does my company offer me to extend to my team member to say, hey, I hear there's a lot going on for you. Let's take a look at the resource center, the benefit resource center, to see what might be of service to you. Or I heard you mention this. I had a team member who's dealing with a son who is physically challenged. She had moved to a new location and she was in need of some additional support for her, to support her child. And she found out about this resource that we had. She took full advantage of it. And it just, again, the team member showed up completely differently because she was able to release that stress of what was weighing her down, released it out because she had access to the resources, and then she could move forward. And so I find as I continued to have this conversation with my other team member, what was 30 minutes turned into 15 minutes, turned into 5 minutes. And the back end of the conversation, when we talked about the true business, far more productive, far more efficient, far more effective in getting business done faster. Because at that point in time, Eric, going back to our lizard brain, I was able to get her out of the past or the future, and I brought her into the executive functioning portion of her brain, which is the present moment in time. And that's ultimately, conscious leadership is about getting people to the present moment. We can't be in the woulda, coulda, shoulda. We got to be in this moment to be able to move forward. Yes, it's great to future plan. And at the same time, though, there's only so much you can do to move forward if you're constantly in the past.
Wow. I love it. And then again, listening to you makes me think of other aspect. The first one is, as a business owner, I recognize the importance of being a conscious leader and being able to not only bring the others, but also bring myself, of not thinking about the past or not thinking about the future, but thinking in the moment. And also, as a business owner, I can, and as a leader in general, I cannot not think about the future to try to understand what's going to happen, to make the change that are necessary. I guess there are different moments for that. But to me, everything you're saying, it makes so much sense, and I'm excited to listen to that. And then I love the passion with which you're talking about it. And I know a little bit of you, that is really something that you're living and that it is existing in your company. It was not like that for many years in the business world. It was not accepted that you can not only be like that and ask questions to your team members, but also as a team member, when somebody is asking you how you doing, say, great. That was the only answer you were. When did that shift happen?
Yeah. Well, since 2016 was the first year that Hilton made the best place to work list. And when Chris Nassetta came on board, I want to say 2007, 8, 6, 7, 8, somewhere around there, he was very passionate about getting Hilton on the radar. And so from 2016 moving forward, we have received more than 560 awards and nearly 60 number one best place to work, including locations like Turkey, India, Italy, and the United States. And this past November, we were recognized as the number 2 best place to work in the world for all companies. And it was our 8th consecutive year for being the number 1 hospitality company to work for. And
Amazing.
so I share this, Eric, because it's been a journey. And especially with a global corporation, listen, it takes a little bit to to shift the battleship, right? You do. But you also get the momentum and the excitement. And again, as you bring in the right people, again, it just starts catching traction, and the momentum gets faster and faster. And then it becomes this state where it's not a nice to have, it is a must have, because we're seeing the results because of the approach that we have.
And I've never had the pleasure yet to meet Chris Nassetta, but my take is he has to be like that, because if a company comes with those ideas, but the head is not like that, then it's total BS and it's not implemented. So I'm sure that him and the people under him are exactly like that. If not, they're not part of the organization, right?
Exactly. And this is his vision. I mean, and I'm not joking when I say this was a big call out he had when he first came on board to Hilton. There's no reason why we can't. We just need to work towards this. How are we going to get there? And HR and the rest of the team supporting them said, okay, this is how we started working with it. And if you hear our chief human resource officer, Laura Fuentes, Laura is amazing. And so she really embodies and exudes everything I'm speaking to and speaking about. So again, as I mentioned at the beginning of the conversation, we've got a very dynamic, incredible group of senior leaders that I am very proud to say those are my leaders. And Chris Nassetta, again, very dynamic to the point that, how many tens of thousands of people does he meet in the course of a year?
Yeah.
And he has this beautiful gift for name recall. And I've never seen anyone like this, where he knows who I am. I'm one of 500,000 team members. I've met him several times. And the fact that he's like, hey, Kim, how are you doing?
Amazing.
Like, talk about making people feel seen, heard, valued, respected, and appreciated. Powerful. And he wouldn't even have to know my name, but we've all been there. We've all been in the room, Eric, when you're talking to leaders and they're like, oh yeah, and they're kind of looking over your shoulder and
right.
Who's the next more important person that, why are you blocking me from them? Not the case with our CEO at all. He is, whether you are the pot washer to the general manager, whether you are someone greeting him at the airport to the leader of the country of wherever he's going, he exudes that same level of connection. And his leaders follow suit because he's leading by example. It's a pretty powerful thing to witness.
It is. And, I was just thinking now of my friend, the late JJ Schleifer, Joachim Lein Schleifer, who was actually president of Hilton in the Middle East. But he was, before that, general manager of Hilton Brussels, and also not only a great friend, but a member of my advisory board for my firm there. He was like that. He would speak with anybody in the hotel. He would speak with anyone straight to them, and it was loved. So what you're saying about the leadership, it's so important. And again, you also exemplify that. So the people working for you can see it. That's how it percolates. And again, going back, doing the parallel with a business owner in our industry, there's obviously smaller business.
Yep.
It starts with yourself. If she or he is not like that, nothing's going to happen. But if she or he is like that, then not only is going to percolate, but you will be able as a business owner to manage based on the values, to give example of alignment with vision, mission, and values. And at the end of the day, to hire and fire people that are not in alignment with that. So you say best place to work, like 8 years in a row in a number 2 this worldwide now, and the first brand in our industry. What are the 5 dimensions of a best place to work? And you say that you have those 5 criteria, which again, it's how you are mentioning these are the dimension on which we're going to measure ourselves that give direction. So what are the 5 dimensions for those great place to work?
There are 5, as you mentioned, 3 of which are directly related to the relationship with the direct leader or manager. And those 3 items are credibility, respect, and fairness. And the last 2 are sense of belonging and pride. And when you take a look at global team member survey scores coming in from 500,000 team members from around the world, and you look at just the positive scores that are coming in from a sense of trust and connection, and the questions go in deep on their leaders, and that information helps us to work with our leadership team to be able to then craft training and have conversations to help them evolve to be the best versions of themselves. Because you said it, Eric, when kind of jumping back, you've got to do the work yourself. You cannot expect a shift in your team until you make that shift first.
Yep.
I had a very candid conversation with a leader in a separate organization and, bemoaning whatever. And I said, well, just think of it this way. The fish always stinks at the head.
It's exactly what I was thinking about. Yeah.
And if you're not willing to do the work, why? Why would you remotely expect your team to do the work? You've got
Absolutely.
to model the way, model the way, model the way. It's the best form of leadership, form of management, and probably the form that's not spoken about the most.
Fascinating. And so how does that translate into the, as you said, we have to think about business results and about the people. How does that translate, we're at the beginning of the year now, into the yearly goal? How do you incorporate that in your planning and in setting the goals for the year to come?
It's a variety of ways. One, it can be through learning and development. What type of learning and development initiatives do we want our team members to go through? How can we support them? I ask my team, what's one scary thing you're going to do for yourself this year? What's
Oh,
that
wow.
thing you are terrified to do, yet you're going to do it?
Wow.
And tell me more. And is that something that would need Hilton resources to support? Is it a training program? Are you getting your master's? The one I asked my team that last year, and they're going around the table telling me what they were doing. I was really proud of them. And they said, "What about you?" I said, "Well, I'm taking a year-long program to become an executive coach on beingness." Something kind of a little obscure, but it's absolutely amazing. And I have to do 100 hours of coaching. So if you know of anyone who wants to be coached, just let me know because I've got to practice these skills. Everyone around the table, count me in.
Wow.
And it was incredible. It was incredible then to be able to bring the tools that I was learning through this, outside course to bring it in and to help them evolve. So it's not like Eric, it's not like I have, okay, here's the 12-step method on how you do this. Part of it is you've got to do the work as a leader. You've got to read. You've got to use other resources. You've got to lean into those resources. Whether it's there's the book called The 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership. It's an incredible book, great resources there. We talked about Patrick Lencioni's book as well. There's also another book, it's one of my favorites. It's called Dignity, Its Essential Role in Resolving Conflict. So powerful. If you're having a conflict with someone and hey, I got to get this person to think that the idea is theirs, never back anyone into the back corner, right? Where is the exit door? Where's that back sliding glass door that they can slide out quietly and walk out with their head still high? So it's
Mm.
what are you doing to do that work? It's also about creating that environment of self-awareness. So, like we talked about, modeling the way, our CEO models the way, our senior leadership models the way. So, how are you modeling the way among your team? And learn who your team members are. Like, find out more about them. What are their favorite snacks? I know that seems silly. Like, why would I want to know? But you know
No,
what?
it's not.
You may want to know what it is, but really get to know who they are as a person and invite that full person into the conversation. I think there's also this concept that everyone needs to be perfect. And Amanda Gorman, who is the youngest poet laureate, and she wrote the poem, The Hill We Climb, and presented that at the inauguration for President Biden. She's an amazing speaker and a beautiful poet.
Mm.
And she said during the ASAE annual convention this past year, she said, people resonate with authenticity, not perfection. And
Brilliant.
it was
Yeah.
such a moment that I was like, truth bomb moment. It was like, boom, right in your face. And then that ended up to embracing failure. It's
Mm.
okay to make a mistake. It's how we own the mistake. It's how we learn from the mistake. It's how we show vulnerability with our team members to say, hey, this is what happened. This is what I've learned. This is what I learned. And this is how I've evolved. That's inspirational to our team members. They're going to feel far safer with you and they're going to feel far more comfortable coming to you with, okay, I made the mistake. I'm here. I'm stuck. I'm like in the quagmire of the murk and the mud. I thought I knew what I was doing, but I need help. I would rather jump in to support my team member that way than having a team member who's trying to hide, 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 hide. And then it's to a point that it becomes so exponential that I don't want to say almost not fixable, because for the most part, unless you're in the medical health care, it's pretty fixable to a certain degree.
Right.
But I just don't want it to get to that point where they are terrified to bring forth a mistake. So we call it failing forward. How do you lean into the mistake versus placing any sort of shame or blame to the mistake?
I absolutely love everything you're saying, Kim. It makes so much sense. And I can see how you create such a great place to work by doing that. And I love what you're saying about Amanda Gorman said you prefer the authenticity to perfection. What is the exact word that she used?
People resonate with authenticity, not perfection.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love.
And then, Eric, my last piece of advice for anyone would just be to allow time. This isn't going to happen overnight.
Mm.
And as I mentioned, you've got to start with yourself, pardon me, with yourself first. And it's going to be a journey, but share your journey. Be transparent with your team, what you're doing. You're going to find that you're going to get so much support, more so than you ever thought, but share it so people can celebrate you and support you along your journey.
With the right people. That exactly. That's
Yeah.
the environment you create. Another last thing I want to say about what you just share, knowing the people, even the snacks and things like that. I'm a member of EO, Entrepreneurs Organization. So I am in the forum with almost the same people for over 10 years now. And no later than last year, we actually had a friend, Mark Sana, who came and give us another way of doing the forum that we used to do all the time. But when he arrived, he put us into a circle. And imagine that you and I, Kim, have been working in the same company for years. And then he said, okay, Kim, you're not going to tell us who you are. Eric, you're going to tell us who Kim is.
Mm.
Does she live? Is she married? Does she have children? Did she marry her sweetheart and does she have 3 children? As I read in your bio. But and seriously, I ask question like, what is her favorite drink? What is her favorite snack? What does she like doing? Oh, she loves to do a Peloton, and her name on the Peloton is Mama Napolitano. Why? Because she's a fun-loving nature. Now, obviously, I'm reading from your bio, but you see the point is understanding who the people are and truly knowing people. That's how you feel seen, you feel understood, and it's just you're not just a number in an organization.
You could take it an additional step with that and say, when Kim walks in the room or when Eric walks in the room, what shows up when he does? And that's where people could say, oh, he's a lighthouse. There's
Hmm.
like he is able to shed light on different areas that I was not even aware of. And he is wisdom. When he steps forth, there is a lot of experience and knowledge. He's also a connector, right? Like, so if you tie the two of them together, you want to talk about a full, you've got that person locked into your organization. That's just such a beautiful gift to be
Absolutely.
able to give to someone, because I feel like, Eric, we're living in a society where, your likes, your tweets, all of the garbly goop, your impressions, all that stuff, but we've never felt so disconnected.
I don't know what to tell you. I have a slide in one of the presentation where I show that we've never been so connected and feeling so alone
Yeah.
because we have tools to connect, but we're not connected. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
connected on the tools, but not deep into the person.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I could go down the shamanic route of saying that disconnection is your disconnection to your inner child. Because when you're connected in with your inner self, everyone else kind of fades away. Because then you're able to self validate, self regulate, be in a space of, this is who I am. I am wisdom. I am connection. I am joy. I am wisdom. I am lighthouse. But not everyone's there, and that's okay, and that's part of the fun. That's why we call it the hero's journey. It's a journey of courage. It's a one day at a time, and you just, once you're ready to take it, celebrate it with your colleagues and your friends so they can support you on that.
Yeah, and I think also that you're actually getting more happy when you don't care about others' opinion. Not that you're not taking others' opinion into consideration, but you're not living to have validation from others.
Yeah.
That it's yeah, well, exactly what you're saying.
It's right decisions. You can be in that space of, I know it's true, but you can then listen to another person's feedback and take it under true advisement and not make decisions to please.
Exactly, absolutely. Now let's go to the last topic for today, which
Yeah.
is exactly why I asked you to be on the podcast. So I was sharing with you what I do for even business owner in our industry, the new program I put in place, the different pillars. And then when I go a little bit deeper into the session, I told you I have this session where we talk about time management, about delegation, about mental health. And then you say, why you call it mental health and not wellness? And I say, what do you mean? And then you start explaining. And then I realized that everything I'm doing is actually much broader than just the mental health in that environment. So thank you for that. I'm going to definitely change the topic. Now, can you explain a little bit more your journey about wellness? and give some tips that anyone listening can implement immediately in their life?
So, as I shared earlier, during COVID, I became a master practitioner of energetic medicine, which then turned to an advanced master practitioner of energetic medicine, similar to Reiki a little bit. I don't expect everyone to do that. Again, you got to, as I like to say, you do you, boo. You figure out what brings joy to your heart. But for me, it was this. And it just allowed me to open up to a variety of things I knew, but I couldn't quite articulate as to how we operate as individuals. And from the standpoint of wellness, honestly, Eric, everything we've been talking around and talking about is correlated to wellness. Because when you can show up for yourself, when you can give yourself time in the morning, when you can identify how do I want to show up for that team member, the me they need me to be, the clearing exercise, how do I want to treat myself and how do I want to stand for myself in the day? How do I want to show up in general as an iconic leader I admire? These are all things around wellness because it's helping you to clear the noise as to how you should show up for yourself. And when you show up that way for yourself, you're showing up that way for others. There's another thing that I know we can get into probably some very stressful situations and for a variety of different reasons within work. And where it's almost like our fight or flight gets kicked in, fight, flight, freeze. And the one way to bring yourself back into a steady state is breath work, where you can be in a meeting, right? Okay, so Eric, I know you've been in these meetings where you're like, someone has said something that you're like, oh, for goodness sake. And then it's just like how they're showing up, maybe getting you going. Like you're like, they are triggering me in a way because how could they be this, whatever, right?
Never. I've never been in such meeting.
You're like the unicorn. I love that. But I know we can all resonate with that some way, shape, or form, whether it's an internal meeting, external meeting, even if it's dealing with your kids or your spouse or loved ones or whatever. I invite you to do box breathing, which is something no one will know that you are doing. You just breathe in for possibly a 4 count or a 7 count. You hold it for either the 4 or the 7 count. You exhale it for 4 or 7 counts, whichever count you pick. Then you hold again for the count you selected, and then you do it again. No one at the board table, no one in the boardroom, no one on the call, the Zoom call, what have you, no one is going to know that you are doing this to help you become regulated. So then it brings you out of the operation of the fear conversation and brings you more into the present moment. So you can actually be super clear on what is happening. And it affords you the opportunity to say, hey, thanks so much for the feedback. I have a few questions for clarity. Or when you said this, help me to understand what your intention was behind this statement. Because when we get in those conversations, we just start ripping, and it's what we call our survival mechanism. We're always operating out of a comfort zone, right? So how we act is more of an automatic way of being. In this case, this breath work allows you to kind of be outside of that comfort zone, to really be open to unlimited possibilities, to say, okay, what really is going on? Because the person who may be getting excited across the table from you for some reason, there's a reason why they're doing it. They're responding from their fear lens. And so our goal in the conversation would be like, how do we get them to then kind of bring them back into, help me to understand what you intended or what your intent was or what you fully meant by, or did I hear you correctly when you said this? Or I interpreted when you said this, but this is what I interpreted it to mean. It just allows you to pause in the conversation to regroup and then try to get the conversation in a direction that moves forward in a way that you feel is beneficial for both parties.
So the wellness, if I understand you well, it's about physical, it's about physiological, it's about emotional, it's about psychological, and it's also about spiritual. It's all of this together.
Yeah, body, mind, spirit, soul.
Body,
Which shockingly is the full person in front of you.
Body, mind, spirit, soul. Kim, it's been fascinating. I really, really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today because, yeah, it's one of the most fascinating conversations, quite frankly, I have when it comes to being a leader. And again, regardless of the size of the company you're working for. My last question for today, when we see each other in a year time and we're going to celebrate with a bottle of champagne, what are we going to celebrate?
Ooh, Hilton being number one best place to work. Um, we will celebrate the continued growth and acceptance and really the how people are embracing conscious leadership. So from a small mom and pop company up to more Fortune 100 companies globally. Because when we are in that space of being conscious with how we show up, it really helps to elevate the world at large. It really helps us to evolve. And I think of meetings and events and our travel industry. We really are at the crossroads of all industry segments. And I think we are very quick to forget or not even realize the magnitude and the scope of what the meetings and events industry has in play. Because when industries and organizations are having their meetings, they are having these meetings to evolve, to grow, develop, whatever the purpose of the meeting. There's a reason why they're having the meeting, which in turn, hopefully, is about making the world a better place. And that just leans into Conrad's vision of filling the earth with the light and warmth of hospitality.
I cannot add anything to that. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for including me in this conversation. I've enjoyed our time together.
Thank you for tuning in to the Business of Meeting podcast. I hope you found today's episode valuable. If you enjoyed the show, the most important thing you can do is leave a review and share it with your colleagues. It really helps spread the word. I truly appreciate your support. And if you're ready to take your business to the next level, don't forget to visit eventbusinessformula.com to learn more about how we are helping even business owners like you. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next time.